Hi guys, welcome to my Sunday live, Sunday the 29th of August 2021. So welcome to you all, whether you're tuning in right now or whether you're watching it at a later date, doesn't matter, you're welcome at any given point. So, as a lot of you now know, I've been sharing from my journal that I created or started last year actually in the lockdown, and the journal is to my mum and my daughter. I sort of have separate journal pages that I wrote to them. So yeah, what I've been sharing over the last quite a few lives now is some of those sharings and those moments through that time. So the first one I'm going to share today is actually from Thursday the 4th of June, and this, as I said, is 2020, last year when I first wrote this and reflected on this. So it's interesting to think that this is now July, August, yeah, sort of what, 12, 13, 14 months or so later, which in itself is quite interesting to have something like this and reflect back on, because in some ways it's a bit bizarre really. It feels like quite a long time ago actually. Yeah, that 14 months. I think about it in that way, it feels like a long time ago. And then in other ways it's not, it's a really short snippet of time. So Thursday the 4th of June 2020. Dear Mum, I'm doing an event next week on the theme of courage. We have about 50 people signed up at the moment, and it's online, which I'm still getting my head around. I wonder what you would have been like with all this technology. Probably got one of us to help you. It made me wonder what you thought of the idea of courage. I wonder what you saw as the most courageous thing that you might have ever done in your life. It's all relative and subjective, because I would say it takes courage to commit to someone and stay, particularly, for example, after Dad's accident, especially with all the arguments that he used to have at times. And it would not have been easy having to live with and accommodate his needs. But I don't know if you would see it that way. I'm not sure you would necessarily see it as courage, or would you just see it as duty or love or something else? I wonder if you felt any courage to try and face your diagnosis of cancer, or whether that was more fear and putting on a brave face. It's really interesting actually, because as I was reading that, one of the first things that caught me earlier on in the passage was where I said, I've got 50 people signed up for this event that I was doing around courage, and it's online, and in brackets I'd put, which I'm still getting my head around. It is fascinating to think that that was, you know, as I said, what, 12, 14, whatever, so that, yeah, about 14 months ago. And yet I know that I've learnt so much technology-wise. I can do way more than what I ever did before. And that's quite important to remember and to remind myself, because I know that I'm not the expert. I know that there's still so much I don't understand or need to get my head around, particularly on platforms I may not know so well. But yeah, just quite important to remind myself that in that sense, I've come a long way really. And when I think that I was doing that event and that was always going to be face to face, and then we had to sort of adapt and took that online, I mean, that was a massive thing actually to do. And I knew it at the time, and even when I reflect back, I know that was a big thing to do. And it was, yeah, it was quite scary, and it wasn't perfect, but I did sort of have a go, if you like. And definitely for me, I felt that was the irony of that event, which was about courage, was I actually felt that I was having to dig deep and really step up and find some courage for that. My next insert, Thursday the 4th of June 2020. Dear Kaylee, I was just reflecting that I'm doing an event on courage relating to coaching online next week, and I wondered what you saw as courage, what it means to you. I also wondered what you saw as the most courageous things you'd perhaps done that took courage. I'm aware that people see courage in different ways. I remember when you told me about your sexual identity, and I think that took a lot of courage for you to share. I remember you saying you wasn't bothered if a lot of other people didn't accept it, but the thought and the fear of me or Dad not accepting it, that was more frightening. I just loved you even more. I wonder if it took some courage to travel Australia and New Zealand by yourself. I remember when we were at the airport and you started to have a wobble and panic a bit. Dad was telling you you'd be fine and practically pushing you through the gate, in brackets, in a good way. And then when you got into the other part of the airport, calling you to make sure you were okay. I also think it takes courage to leave a relationship when you know it's not working anymore. I wonder what you would say about what courage is and what courage you felt you've taken in your life. I was reflecting on this piece actually, and I was thinking, yeah, as I said, it's very, it's subjective, isn't it? And it's also objective. So one person's courage is not another person's. So for me, the way I see it is, I think to have travelled those countries, you know, by yourself, to me, it takes massive courage. I remember travelling Europe, let alone somewhere much further away, for a couple of months. And I did that with my friend Julie. Julie was a couple of years older and she'd also already done some travelling. So she had a little bit more, you know, experience about her in that sense. And I think that, although it's still a big thing for me to do on a number of levels, I felt more confident and reassured because I was travelling with her and I felt, you know, she knew a little bit about what she was doing. The thought way back then, for me, which was of a similar age to what you were actually, you know, to have, I think you may have even been slightly younger than me actually then, so to have travelled Europe, for example, by myself, I couldn't even comprehend it, to be honest, at that point. So yeah, I think that was a really big thing for you to do as well. Monday the 8th of June 2020. Dear Mum, I was uploading some of my live videos on YouTube and I needed to listen to a few to remind myself of the content so I could put the title and the descriptions on. One of them was referring to my own story and legacy, the idea of what do you want to leave behind. What would you like to hear or imagine people saying about you? I'm not sure if you ever really thought about that, but we all said that you were a really good mom. You worked hard and loved your children. You wanted us to be happy and you were great with your grandchildren. So I think in a way, part of your legacy is absolutely about what you instilled in your children. And we're also your legacy moving forward now that you're not here with us anymore. We continue to move forward and take aspects of you with us. Monday the 8th of June 2020. Dear Kaylee, I was talking to my mum and writing to her and reflecting on legacy. I wonder what you want your legacy to be. I wonder if you think about it in that way. The impact, your mark, your footsteps, how you want to leave this world. What would you like to be known for and hear others say about you? For me, I think about you breaking moulds and adventures, your challenging stereotypes, using your voice and speaking up, claiming your power in a way that can make a difference in this world, and you pushing boundaries. It's really funny because I always, from when I was really quite young, I always had a very, very strong sense within me that I knew I really, two things actually, I can't explain it other than I knew I really wanted to make a difference and an impact. And I also knew on some level that I was and I would make an impact. I think there's been times where I've had moments in my life where I've also felt quite, I get a bit frustrated every so often and question to what extent am I making enough, if you like, of a difference. And then I was thinking about this recently and I thought, yeah, I get that, and I get that it is quite a balancing act between making what you believe to be enough of a big difference, but then at the same time needing to stay connected to people so that you can make that difference as well. That I've been watching a few of the Undercover Boss that's been on recently on the TV, and that always strikes me. The common theme being that the bosses of these particular companies that have been on, they start really small and they're really close to the people and their ideas, and they've got their feet firmly on the ground. They've got they've got their fingers on the pulse. They know what's happening, with their people and their company. And then generally what's happened is, as it's grown and got bigger and bigger over time, they've lost sight of the connection with the people. Perhaps they're more caught up with processes and systems. And then generally, it's only when things perhaps aren't quite going the way they would like to, or there's some problems and issues that are arising. As I said, these bosses have then gone undercover and really been surprised by some of the things they've found, but also it's made them really take a step back and take stock and realise that they've lost, in essence, they've lost touch on the ground level, with what's really going on with their employees and what they really need to think and know. And so I think that's what struck me about this notion of, yes, I've had frustrations at times where I think, I want to make an even bigger impact than what I do with the work that I do. And then at the same time, I'm like, well, what does that actually mean anyway? And if you, as I said, there's a real balance, and I've not got the answer to that, other than I think, the more you take yourself away, and I get doing that away from the very people you want to work with and make a difference with at the ground level, I think you can lose some of that. You can still make, obviously, you can make a difference in a different way. But yeah, just struck me thinking about it. I'm not sure I'd want to be that distance from it, really. So Friday the 12th of June 2020. Dear Mum, I did my courageous coaching event last night. Some parts of the presentation didn't work, and I felt emotional and vulnerable, but that's part of what the presentation was about, the irony and the paradox. But I was able to dig deep, manage and share my emotions and still share. I really feel I've come such a long way, and I feel proud I can share my emotions and feelings, that my sensitivity is actually my strength. It's my power, not my weakness, and it feels empowering. I was thinking about that, and I was thinking, when I was younger, even into say 20s and maybe sort of 30s, I know that people would say, you're sensitive. You used to hear that phrase a lot. Oh, you're too sensitive, and it started to make me feel quite ashamed of that as well in some respects, and like, I don't like this aspect of myself, and I'd get frustrated and annoyed with myself and try and cover that up. And actually, the reality is that sensitive side, if you like, is actually the side that enables me to connect with others. It enables me to have compassion and to not be quick to judge, because that's what my sensitivity is able to do, and very quickly. So it really does, on so many levels, really enable me to be really effective and to do what I do well, and what I really love doing as well, in terms of the impact, the difference I can make in people's lives, whether that be in my coaching, in my therapy, in my supervision, my training, my tutoring on courses, all those things. And so finally, The insert I'm going to read is Friday the 12th of June 2020. This is Dear Kaylee. Dear Kaylee, I did my event last night. Well, I actually put in it, I did my event last week and then crossed it out and put night, exclamation mark. Freudian slip, probably feels like a week, I'm still processing. My slides did not share properly on Zoom. I had 50 plus people watching and I felt emotional and vulnerable and being watched at the same time. But I also had to dig deep. I'd done my breathing skills, I'd given myself space, I'd reflected, practiced and rehearsed. And I was with my emotion. And it does not always feel comfortable, but it feels fulfilling and satisfying. I know that it's helped me grow and I have more compassion for myself and others connect with me in a meaningful and real way. I use my sensitivity for power. It's my strength and I've learned I don't need to protect myself from this. I hope the same for you, gorgeous. And then after that, I then put another insert here. It says post early evening, so I'd added something on the same day. And then it says, Dear Kaylee, I saw a programme on kangaroos. They built the fence higher to stop them jumping over it. It reminded me of when Jake, who was our old dog, got over the next door's fence, even when we'd made the fence a lot higher. And next door's cat, well, tried to get hold of it. And the neighbours, they were slightly upset as their cat would not come down from the tree, exclamation mark, laughing out loud. Jake was amazing. He was my first animal in my life ever. I know he was your first as well, and then in brackets, well, sorry, apart from the hamsters, and they were important, exclamation mark. But Jake was different and taught me so much. I really had to stretch out my comfort zone. I've so much for him to be thankful for. It's because of Jake I can now be a better parent to Willow. I feel so much more comfortable. Jake paved the way and will always be special. I think it's important to acknowledge, celebrate and talk about him, even though I know over time you found it difficult and painful to do. It does get easier eventually, but I do think you have to keep speaking and talking about him and bringing him to life to resolve and rest in a peaceful way. And when I was reflecting on that and I just read that, I thought to myself about, I've had a number of conversations lately, even today, we meet a couple of people, walking your dog, and often the age will come up, and Willow's 11 now, 11 and a half actually, and you sort of think, for a Weimaraner that's a really good age. And then I know of other people where Weimaraners have lived till about 14. And there's a part of me that's like, I really want, of course, you want your dog to live for as long as you can. And I think to myself, I really wish, I hope, at least a couple more years. And the reality is, I know at some point, like all of us, but she will obviously leave us and die at some point. And that will be a very, very difficult time. But I also was, thinking that there is something about that piece with, I was talking about Jake earlier on and what he's sort of taught us, and the idea of Willow and what they love to do together. So I definitely got some thoughts in the future about, how I really like the idea of doing something that would connect the two of them together. So that's just some thoughts in process to sort of think about at the moment. Jake, that's right. Yeah, Jake's just asked, is Jake your previous dog? Yeah, he is Jake's. So those are my reflections on what I wrote in my sort of journals at the moment. I'm going to share with you now some of the meanings of the words that I've chosen. I like to choose a word or a couple of words of the week. And then also some random facts as well, which I always find really interesting. So this might seem a really obvious one, but there is a meaning, right, of a word. The word is called greige. So it's spelled Greige, greige. Now I didn't know this, but apparently one of the meanings is it's a colour between grey and beige. I smiled to myself because on the face of it, it seems really obvious, but I didn't actually know that greyish, which is grey and beige together, was a colour. But it's also known as a fabric or yarn that has not undergone bleaching, dyeing, or other finishing processes. And I quite like the idea of that, actually. You know, it hasn't had anything of any other sort of chemicals attached to it. So I just thought that was a really nice touch. Jake says, did you know one of Keita and Chief's babies is called Jake too? No, I didn't actually. Thanks for sharing that, Jake. That's really lovely. Another word which is revamp. Now, I'm sure most of you have probably heard of the word revamp. You probably think, oh yeah, I know what that means. So it means to renovate or to refurnish or to revise. But what I didn't know, and this is what I love about we're going back to what we call the etymology, so the real background to words, is it's actually from re, which means again, and vamp, this is the piece, the front upper part of a shoe. Now, I didn't know that. It's from the Old French avant-pied, which means from avant, which is for, and pied, foot, and also from the Latin foot as well. So I really just like the idea that I didn't know that revamp, in terms of the background to the meaning of the word, it also connects to vamping, which is the front upper part of a shoe as well. So I just thought that was really interesting. Right, I've got my first random fact, which yeah, I didn't know this, and so I found this really interesting. Talking about the idea earlier on, I was saying about, you know, at some point, you know, I was talking about pets in that sense, you know, sort of, but when you lose them and they die and what that means. It says here, there's a company that turns dead bodies into an ocean reef. So, for those who romanticise a burial at sea, the company Eternal Reefs offers an innovative solution. It mixes the cremated remains of a person with concrete to create a pearl onto which loved ones can etch personal messages, handprints or mementos. The pearl is then encased in a reef ball that is dropped into the sea, where it provides a new habitat for fish or other sea life, helping encourage a vibrant ecosystem, the circle of life at work. I just thought that was fascinating, you know, and for anybody who I suppose has got a real love of and connection with the sea, you know, I just think the idea of that, which also is about helping the ecosystem as well and the habitat, I just thought was really lovely. Karen, I'll listen to this when I feel better, still in shock, the diagnosis. Honestly, Karen, I'm really quite honoured, to be honest, that you've even put a message on there. Yeah, I can imagine. I know you've been unwell. I don't know all the sort of details, but I know that, you know, you've had quite a big sort of shock. So absolutely, you know, just sort of listen whenever that sort of feels right. And also, I think it's important for all of us actually to take the time, you know, when we sort of need to have some quiet time with ourselves as well. But no, thank you for sharing that, Karen, and please do you know, let us know, keep in touch and let us know how things are going for you as well. I did sort of message John and sort of I'd asked, you know, that if you were sort of okay, how you were, and to sort of let you know as well. Another random fact, again, I didn't know this, you may have. McDonald's introduced drive-through service due to the military. Did you know that? It says the first McDonald's drive-through was installed in a restaurant based in Sierra Vista, Arizona, located near a military installation. Military rules forbade the soldiers from wearing their military uniforms in public, and they weren't about to change into civilian clothes just to grab a burger and run back to base. So the restaurant manager, David Rich, came up with a solution. Cut a hole into the wall and allow members of the military to pick up their orders without stepping out of their car. The convenience and simplicity of the idea quickly caught on. And I suppose, as they would say, the rest is history. Found that really fascinating, actually. I didn't know. Somebody have asked me, well, you know, where did that originate from? I couldn't have told you. The third one that I'm going to sort of share with you, which really made me laugh, and you'll understand why in a second, was the Alfred Hitchcock was apparently frightened of eggs. Says the master of suspense who terrified audiences with movies like Psycho and the Birds considered himself an ovophobe, someone who's frightened of eggs. He explained to an interviewer in 1963, "I'm frightened of eggs, worse than frightened, they revolt me. That white brown thing without any holes, and when you break it, inside there's that yellow thing, round, without any holes. Blood is jolly, red, but egg yolk, is yellow, revolting. I've never tasted it." I just find the idea that Alfred Hitchcock, with the films, you know, that he's sort of created, in reality was really sort of frightened and had this phobia of eggs. Just really fascinating. I suppose it feels like, you know, to sort of know that with the work he's done. I suppose there's quite a paradox in it. I think that's the other thing that makes me smile about it. So I'm going to share with you two quotes, because you know I also like to share a couple of quotes as well. So the first quote is by Napoleon Hill, and it says, "Remember that your real wealth can be measured not by what you have, but by what you are." So I'll read that again. "Remember that your real wealth can be measured not by what you have, but by what you are." I think it's really important to remember that. You know, I think so many of us get caught up in, you know, the idea that you need this and you need that and you need the other. And, you know, yes, to some extent, there are certain things that we think we need and we want and that will, you know, bring us a better quality of life. But ultimately, we can also lose sight of, I think, what is truly, really vital and important to all of us. So that's why I really like that your wealth cannot be measured not by just what you have, but more by what you are. And then the other quote, which I like because there's such a paradox in it, and I like paradox, as some of you know, is by Margaret Mead. And the quote is, always remember that you are absolutely unique, just like everyone else. And I just love the idea of that. It's like, you know, oh yeah, just like everyone else. But that is the reality as well, that we are unique. But the idea we're just like everyone else is also unique. So it's like, yeah, you're all unique, but, you know, there's something that you've all got in common, you know, at the same time. So I find that really amusing. It just makes me smile, brings a smile to my face. So what I'm going to do now, guys, is I'm going to share two of my my poems. I know from time to time I share either a couple of my own, or it may be a couple of other people's. So these are my own. So the first one is called "Help Me." So help me. Help me to help you, to help me, so that we can help each other. Help me to understand why you cover up, why you distance yourself. We don't know how much distance we have left. It may be shorter than what you think. Help me to be more truthful about what I'm feeling, to not be afraid of saying what I think for fear of your reaction. Help me to look deep inside myself, past the ego, the pride, the bravado, past the strength, the vulnerabilities, the fears. Help me to mine for the gold, the precious pearl that exists within all of us. Help me to face my demons, to say when it hurts, to say when it's hard. Help me to make it easier for us, to make it lighter, to laugh, to have fun, to play freely, like we did when we were younger. Help me. So that was my first poem, Help Me. The second poem I'm going to read is called The Race. The odds are stacked against me, stacked in a precise way or a chaotic way. Does it matter? Stacked nevertheless. But I'm not giving up. I'm not giving in. To continue to hope beyond the reality, the hurt, the pain, the mess. To be on the other side, to stretch to the other side, to step over lightly, to run over sprightly, to fly over with wings, to stomp over noisily, but to begin to move over. To win, what does it mean? To overcome, to not admit or accept defeat, to have a goal and be inspired, to compete and be in the race of life, to be part of the human race. The race to where and for what? To say I've done it, to say I've lived and loved well, to have used every ounce of energy expended in my life, to live, to love, to hope for it to be worth something. And that was called Race. So, I've shared with you my reflections from a journal, my words for the week, some random facts, some quotes, shared my couple of poems. So, I'm going to share my song that I've chosen. Just literally opening up my laptop. Please feel, as always, feel free to sing along, move, sway, whatever you feel like. Remember, I can't see you, so it doesn't matter what you're doing. Okay, so when you're ready, guys, I'll press play. Oh, 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 oh! Where's it gone? There's a kind of hush all over the world tonight. All over the world you can hear the sound of lovers in love. You know what I mean, just the two of us and nobody else in sight. There's nobody else and I'm feeling good, just holding you tight. So listen very carefully, get closer now and you will see what I mean. It isn't a dream. The only sound that you will hear is when I whisper in your ear, I love you forever and ever. There's a kind of hush all over the world tonight. All over the world, people just like us are falling in love. Bum 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 bum. Bum bum ba-dum, ba-da-da-dum, ba-da-bum bum. Do do do. So listen very carefully. Get closer now and you will see what I mean. It isn't a dream. The only sound that you will hear is when I whisper in your ear, I love you forever and ever. There's a kind of hush all over the world tonight. All over the world you can hear the sounds of lovers in love. There's a kind of hush all over the world tonight. All over the world. Ba-dum. There's a kind of hush all over the world tonight. All over the world you can hear the sounds of lovers in love. Bum bum ba bum ba da 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 dum ba da 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 dum bum 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 bum. So that was my song for this evening. Just a real lovely, warm, calm lilt. That's how it makes me feel. So thank you for joining and listening. Thank you for your comments. Please, if you're watching at some other later stage, still always feel free to contact me, send me any sort of messages, anything I can do to help. I certainly will. So lots of love, lots of hugs. Continue to really look after your well-being. And as I said, you know, if you really need some help, then do let me know. Do contact me. So love you loads. Lots of sparkle, lots of warmth, lots of well-being. Look after yourselves, and I shall speak to you later, guys. Take care. Bye.